hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Today we are talking to you coaches. It's Mike Bonelli and Lee Elias, and we are going to go through our checklist, whether you are a veteran coach or a dad coach, volunteering hours and hours and hours of your time to these kids whom you care about more than anything in the world except your own kids. We're going to give you a checklist today to go over. And by the way, if you're a manager or a parent, you still want to listen to this episode because you're going to find out all the things that these coaches have to go through throughout the year without just giving you a couple minutes after the practice to discuss whatever it is that you need to discuss, which we all have to do as well. But Mike, I'm going to start with you today because I'm excited about this. I thought about even me as an experienced coach when I dove into youth hockey a few years ago for the first time. Um, I don't want to say I was unprepared, but there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know to expect. There are a lot of things that I even did know to expect that when it happened, it was like, oh, wow, this is happening. But again, we want to give kind of this checklist one thing at a time about things you need to know. And I think, Mike, with any coach, it starts with your staff, your assistant coaches, your manager, and maybe some other people around. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you first get into coaching, you're excited. You're like, oh, I'm going to work on strategy and penalty kill and power
Power
play and
play.
put lines together. And I can't wait to, you know, lay out how I'm going to teach the kids and motivate them. But it all comes down to, what are you doing to get there
Right.
and laying the groundwork and the foundation for success. And I think at every level, whether you're doing, whether you need an eight person coaching staff with an 8U station based ADM practice or a 2 or 3 person coaching staff at 18U, building a group of people to help you accomplish the goals that you're going to set out for, I think is probably the number one thing you want to do.
Yeah, it's a funny point, and I'm realizing this now, again, several years into this, that I think I've seen it all. I've seen the very overzealous tactical coach that comes in with that plan of I know exactly what I want to do. I've also seen the nonchalant coach that comes in of like, well, hey, look, they needed somebody, and it'll be fun, and I'm just going to run practices, just so I can say it now. There is no right or wrong way to approach that, right? If you're anywhere on that spectrum, it's great and you're volunteering and we appreciate that. But if you don't surround yourself with great people, it's going to be a really hard season, right? And again, before you even dive into the planning of the tactical and the practice, which we're going to talk about too today, you got to find those people to surround you, right? Now, we can look at this episode in a lot of different ways. We always like to separate it U12 down, U12 up. So throughout the course of this episode, we may reference something like, well, at this age, you would do this, at this age, you would do that. But no matter what age you're coaching, you got to surround yourself with good people. And Mike, again, when you look at what does that mean, good people, right? Sometimes you're given several people of, hey, they want to volunteer and they want to help out. Sometimes you're not. The key is this to me within this, and you're going to hear this a lot in this episode today with a lot of these tactics. You got to be able to communicate effectively with who's ever there, right? Because there's going to be days you can't make a practice, they can't make a practice. You could potentially disagree on the direction the team is going on. You got to be able to communicate because I have seen I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this. I've seen what happens when coaches don't communicate and they fight at practice, not physically, but I've seen coaches yelling back and forth on other
Yeah.
sides of the ice, which, I mean, the kids are watching that and it's kind of ridiculous. So
Well,
pick the people around you wisely.
yeah, and I think also in the same conversation about communication, you might want to find somebody and search out somebody that is opposite of you in communicating. I mean, maybe
Right.
you're a boisterous yeller, like I'm a yeller, like I'm a loud yelling across the ice
You're an
coach.
amplifier. Let's make
Yeah,
it
I amplify what I'm trying to say, and if you're standing on the other side of the rink, you might think I'm screaming and yell at the kids, and I'm not. I'm just loud. Like I'm not. Like I'd rather do that than take the time. But there are tons of coaches that
right.
the guys and girls come in, they take a knee, they talk to them in a calm manner, and they go back at it. And certain kids respond to certain coaches
Great point.
in different ways. So when you're putting together your group of coaches and asking for help, you think about what the makeup of your team is too, and also on the same thing as far as communication goes, can that person effectively teach?
Mm,
um maybe you as the head coach aren't you're not a great skater, maybe you can't shoot, maybe you're Scotty Bowman and don't even go on the ice. You don't even go in your skates. But then you need at the youth level, you better find somebody that can demonstrate and show drills. And if it's not a kid that you're using, if it's not another, an 18U player or somebody helping you, then you got to find effective communicators in coaching that can show what the skills and the drills are that you want to accomplish each day when you're on the ice.
Yeah, like two things on that thought, Mike. So one is that I think there's coaches who have their style, right? And I think there's also a lot of value in coaches that can adapt to a role, right? So like one of the things I do mostly, assistant coach work, if you will, with the teams that I work with because I'm spread thin through so many teams, right? And what I will do at a practice is I'll really kind of pay attention to the demeanor of, I'll just say the coaching staff. It doesn't even have to be the head coach. Because if someone's, to your point, if you're an amplifier, I like that word, you don't need two of them, right? Sometimes you need somebody else that's going to just kind of not be that. Or that's not so much good cop, bad cop. But if someone's being a loud voice out there, you don't have to be a loud voice. You can be a soft voice because, as you said, different kids respond in different ways. And adversely, there's also been practices where I feel like I need to be that loud voice or I need to be a little bit of a stricter voice. So that cohesiveness is part of a coaching staff. Good communication, because ego plays into this all the time. Your other coaches kind of need to know what each other are doing. I'll at practice go up to coaches and say, listen, I'm going to be a little more stern here when I talk. Are you cool with that? Don't underestimate that, right? Don't underestimate doing that, especially if you're working with parents you've never met before. I think it's also important that you can talk to them and say, look, I don't agree with the way you're doing that. You do that after the practice or off the ice. Have a adult conversation, if you will, hopefully, and see how it
Right.
goes. The other thing too, Mike, that you brought up again when it comes to communication and coaching staffs, you really should look at the expertise of each person around you. There's nothing wrong, and this is something I've run into before. We'll have a volunteer head coach that maybe played high school hockey or maybe didn't play that much. They just enjoy skating, and they've come up to me and said, "Wow, you just have so much experience," and I'm like, "Don't that doesn't matter to me. You're the head coach. If you are the head coach, I respect that role. Now, if there are skill sets that I have that you want to utilize, that's your decision as the head coach, and I'm more than happy to teach that. The point I'm trying to make is this: your skill level and resume is not a prerequisite to be any type of coach. The coaching staff together is what makes it great. So if you have a great skater, a great tactician, a great communicator, a great motivator, there's a lot of different types of things we could keep adding here. Find how that mix works for your coaching staff, right?
It's at every level, right? You watch the final minute of play in an NHL game, and it's not
Right,
it's often not the head coach drawing up the last play of the game. It's maybe
right,
that person that specializes all year in that particular scenario and that format, and that head coach is put together that staff knowing, hey, this is my power play guy, this is my
right.
2 minute drill guy, this is my this person's actually worked with this group of 5 players multiple times throughout the season on his own time or after practice or before practice, and that's where you kind of put your staff together. The same thing if you're a head coach and you're working with an 8U program and you're doing a station based practice, that this is the time when you find the right people to fill in the right skills and drills, right? Maybe
Right.
if it's just a game and you don't worry about the skills so much, maybe you want a high energy person. You want somebody that's gonna really come at that with some great positive fun teaching ability. And then you have maybe a different group that's working on a stick handling game. Well, you make sure you have somebody that can actually show the kids that they're doing
Right.
the skill wrong. I'm not somebody that says, oh, just drill them, drill them, drill them, and eventually they'll get it right, because sometimes they'll never get it right. And
Right.
if you work 24 weeks of teaching somebody the wrong way to do a skill, then they're going to be really good at being bad at that skill. So I think it's like I think
And
it's
tough
just
to
a matter
break.
of
Yeah.
being in the situation. So age matters, the type of person you bring in, the staff matters, the ability for that person to, like, I know it's like my wife and I laugh all the time when I coach teams and I'm an assistant coach. It's like, oh, this ain't gonna work. This is not gonna work. And I gotta really mute myself as an assistant coach and really mentally put myself in a place to stand back, because I do want to jump in there.
Right.
It's just my nature. So,
I get it.
make sure when
Yeah.
you talk to that person, you gotta, like, listen, I need you to be on my team here.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess it's easy in August. but let's see where you're going to be in November and
Yep.
January.
Well, look, a good coaching staff is a team within the team. And I'll also say just on that, Mark, like, look, it's got to be fun for the kids, and the definition of fun can really change at different age levels. Fun for a 8-year-old is a lot different than fun for an 18-year-old, right? Where it's extremely competitive usually, and you want to compete, and that's what makes it fun. So I think that a good note for all coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, anything, everything in between, is you got to meet these kids where they're at. You can't forget to do that. Like, you want to lose a team quick, tell them about how hard your day is and work and a job, and when you guys get out there in real life, just you wait. It's the quickest
When
way to
I
lose a
was
team.
18, you should have saw the way I played. I never would have played this way.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my
I
God.
broke my nose and kept going. If you want to lose a team quick, tell them about your day. They're not here for you. They're here for them. Always remember that. All right, moving on. Again, first thing we said, pick a great staff, pick a great manager. We're going to revisit managers when we talk about scheduling. But before we talk about scheduling, something you want to do right now, we're recording this in the summer, is make sure all of your certifications are done. Now, I know the club I'm with sends me emails ad nauseum. Get your shirts done, get your safe sport done, get your USA hockey done, get it done, get it done, get it done. While it's annoying, I appreciate it because all of my stuff is done. And I don't like being in this situation where someone comes up to me at the rink going, "You can't step on the ice today because you didn't do this." And I have seen that happen to many people. So as a coaching staff, get on your guys, make sure you can do the checking of, please send me that you're up to date on Safe Sport. Please send me that you're up to date on all of the certifications you need to coach. There might be different rules at different places beyond USA Hockey, but that's a really important one. Also, a reminder, if you coach a U18 team, any kid on the team that's turning 18 this year has to be certified. Safe Sport certified. Excuse me, that was a tongue twister. All right. So, as the rule states, most all U18 teams this year have to be Safe Sport certified. I did it right that time, Mike. Get your certifications in. Mike, have you had any issues with this?
Every year. Every
Mhm.
year I get multiple emails, text messages, phone calls. It's December 30th. I didn't do my certification. It's running out. I'm like, listen, buddy.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how many times, I don't know
Why do
how
we
long.
have to do this?
Like, why? Oh, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. This is,
Yeah.
it wasn't ridiculous when it first came out. It's like, oh, well, I got to get that done. It's
Right.
ridiculous when you didn't plan it,
Procrastinate.
get it done, and now and the best I get is, oh, Mike, look what you're gonna make me do to these kids. Like, you're really putting me. These kids are gonna really be disappointed. I'm like, well, that's your job to not disappoint them, not mine. I
Right.
mean, that's where you are. So there's a couple of strategies I've found that have been effective and work. Number one is, if you have a big organization and you're a parent and you're listening to this, or you're a coach or a manager, it's it is I know it's counterproductive to the way USA Hockey has this set up, but you can go in and do a module. Like, if you have a bunch of coaches that need their 10U module, go into a room and do it together.
Right. I love that.
Make it a fun learning experience. Make it a pizza party. Bring in the wraps. Bring in beer. I don't care. Just go nuts and get people in the room, and you can knock out a bunch of these programs
Right.
and help people get through them, not cheating, but supporting and saying, hey, okay, we're going to go module 10. And then it really becomes a teaching and an instructional piece, team building piece. But you can knock a lot of this stuff off, because what happens to all of us is, I've heard multiple, coaches get on the train, they're doing the module, they get a couple of things through it, they got to go to work, and then they don't get back to it, or they forgot about it. They go, I thought I finished that, but it didn't load. If you're an organizational person, help your coaches get through it. I'm not saying it's pleasant. I mean, it's like, listen, we're asking coaches to do, like 20 hours of different things just to get the pleasure of coaching for free, but and giving up, 30 weeks of your life. But I think it's just,
It's more than that, Mike.
make it the best possible way to do it. Um, Modules can be done as a group. You're you know, obviously right now, level 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all online basically. And so you have to do that on your own, but give your coaches an opportunity to say, hey, here's the block of time,
Yeah.
get your stuff done. We're not going to schedule a practice, because you'll hear that all the time. Oh, well, I got practice that night, so I can't, well, you can miss your practice because you have a support structure around you. And this comes down to your staff too. If you're looking for your staff, maybe get a staff member that has a higher level certification than you is all done already,
Yeah.
or have all their modules done. And then of course safe sport, which everyone should have anyway,
Right.
background check, stuff like that.
It's
That's the
easy
kind of
too.
stuff.
Like Safe Sport,
Knock
the
it out,
refresher
knock
is
it out
30
right
minutes.
now
Yeah.
in August,
Yeah.
before the excuses come up that there's no time to do it.
Right.
Listen, you could do safe sport on your iPad on the beach, so it's
Yeah,
really
that
not.
one's not too hard. Yeah.
Even the modules are easy. I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
they're fun. They're actually, if you're a long term hockey person or short term, they're informative. They remind you of things. They give you a kind of an ability to remember, like, oh, that's what a 10U player should be learning. And then you could debate it. You could say, my kids are elite and they're not. But it gives you at least some context as far as where USA Hockey is, where your role is as a coach in that age group, and then some strategies and hints on how to get yourself through the season. No better time than do that than getting ahead of it as you're planning to go into your season.
Right. And I would say this, that if we didn't need it, we wouldn't have it. Right. That's kind of the way I look at those things. Right. And just to your point, Mike, safe sport, especially the refresher, is not hard. Um, Look, I'll say this to everybody too, that everybody's got different schedules. Some people have way more flexible schedules. Some people have really tight schedules, but this is part of the prerequisite if you want to get it done. And they will not let you on the ice. I mean, they will physically stop you from going on the ice if you haven't done this. So, coaches, head coaches specifically, and managers, it really is on you to make sure that this is done. I will say this: USA Hockey gives more than enough time to get this done. I mean, you can be pretty well into the season before the deadline shows up for this.
Yeah,
Um,
December 31st. I mean,
yeah,
going in. I mean, like, listen, that's just it's right now. You're going to be listening to this or discussing this with your team in August, September. It's a couple of hours, get it done. And the safe sport again, it's a 2-year window. You just have to do a refresher course after that.
yep,
And then once you do your module one, so like think about it. If you're doing an 8U team, you do your 8U module, and that's good for as long as you're an 8U coach. If you stay in 8U coaching for the rest of your life, then you just never have to do another module again. So
right,
you just move up with the kids. If you do,
yeah,
2 years of 8U, 2 years of 10U. If you're one of those coaches that are in that system, you just do it as you move up the ranks. And again, if you're an organizational person and you're planning this, do it as a team, do it as a group, do it in a big setting and get everybody logged in. And if you're a really savvy person, you have a bunch of coaches in your region that aren't uh, internet savvy and IT savvy, then they're right there. You're right there, ready to help them log in, stay on, and move through the system.
right, right. Mike and I are big supporters of the team built-in environment of helping each other out. We talked about this in one of our previous episodes for the U18 teams. Do it as a team, make it a positive, make it as a team event, right? Look, they're always going to be a groaner. It just comes to how can you inspire people of, hey, we're doing this together. If you're an organizational leader within hockey, parents probably love it if you offer your coaches, hey, we have a distinct time that we're going to do this together. I mean, as a parent, I'd be like, oh, that's
Promote
very
it,
cool.
set it
Yeah,
aside,
make it
make
a
it an
part of it.
advantage to your
Yeah,
organization.
yeah,
Like
that's what I'm
we
saying.
take, we really take pride in teaching our coaches and mentoring them and working towards making sure your kids are safe. What better way to do that?
Yeah, I don't think any parent wants to hear the head of an organization go, "Oh, I hate that they make us do this." Like, what do you mean you hate that they make you do this? This is important. So, uh,
Right.
again, look, always going to be a groaner, always. I get it, but you can turn this into a positive for your organization. Mike, you talked about some of those modules for the age-based stuff where they go through, some tactics on how to coach kids at different age levels. That's going to move us into kind of probably the meatiest, juiciest part of this entire episode, which is a season planning, right? Season planning, season outlining, practices, scheduling. I'll say this right away, and this goes back to the coaching and the staff. You want to have a great manager. And if your manager is doing it for the first time, assist them because it is a tremendous amount of work. There's always another manager that can help your manager learn the ropes. Without a great manager, it's going to be a struggle the entire season. So, one of the biggest members of your staff is a manager. And I think the season planning, the first part of season planning, Mike, is getting a schedule together, right?
I mean, I am baffled when I watch teams that have no direction. Like they're just winging it every week. And I see it a lot. Like it's not a little, even in organizations I've been in. I'm like, guys, nobody can work like this. Like, so especially today. I mean, when there's zero reason not to have a scheduling app and a communication app built in.
Right.
Find a great manager, delegate, hold people accountable, and hold their feet to the fire to get things done on a timely manner. But really, you're managing this team, you're managing this group at the youth hockey level. It becomes more important because now you're managing the kid, the parent, everybody else's schedules, your own schedule, your own family. So it's just a matter of um, delegating and communicating the time and the need that you have. And I think you're right. I mean, that number one thing is, if you're before you can set up a season plan, you need to find the planner. And that
Right.
manager is going to be really important to help you do that.
Well, it's everything. And again, I've seen both good managers and bad managers. I think the biggest stressor you can have on a season from an administrative side is not having great planning. And it is a stressor. Nobody wants to get a call. Can you play tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Well, Johnny's got this sport, that sport. I mean, it just doesn't work, right? The other thing too with scheduling is not just games, but tournaments, practices, all the extra things that go in. I mean, I know right now it's again, we're recording this in late July. When's our practice is going to be? When's our practice is going to be? Hey, when we know, you'll know. All right, that's one of
Yeah,
those
but see,
things.
but you need to
Yeah,
communicate that too. Like,
yeah,
don't leave it open ended, because it's like
that's
anything else.
fair.
People will come up with their own idea of
Right.
what's going on. So
No,
you
well,
got to
well, they
you
practiced
got to
this time last year, so it's going to be that time this year, right? Like,
right. You got to send out, like, I just did that the other day. I'm like, we didn't know when our practice schedule is yet. And I'm like, listen, I'm aggressively working with the rink and the organization on figuring out our planning stages. I do know we're starting in September, and I know we're ending in March.
right,
but
right.
but right now I don't know the timing is on and then knowing that my season schedule, then it's just evaluating, and looking ahead and saying, okay, who is my team?
Right.
And like, how aggressive do I want to be with the schedule? And how, where do I really, what are my parents going to buy into? What are they not going to buy into?
Yeah, let's kind of dive into scheduling a little bit because I think that sometimes people blindly schedule like, oh, we have an open date here, we have an open date there, we can do this here, we can do that there. You gotta be a little careful with that, right? Here's some things you got to think about, and Mike's going to dive into this too. Turnarounds. You don't want to have a late game at home and an early game away, 2 hours away the next day. Those are tough, not just on the kids. I'm talking to the parents, right? You also got to be careful with practices and games. I know last season, something that irked me a bit. I'm not trying to. I'm not pointing the fingers at anybody. I thought this was just poor planning. Was they did a lot of power skating clinics for my team, my son's team, excuse me, the night before a game, and they were skating them really hard. And the morning games, we would be horrible. The kids were completely exhausted. I just thought that was poor planning. I don't think anybody thought about. That's what the point I'm trying to make. I think it was just, oh, we have time to do it here, and the kids were always dead the next morning, right? And complaining about it. Although they're young, they can handle it. But Mike, you made a good point when we were talking the pre-show about U12 and up. Of there's a lot of times you might have to leave on a Thursday for a weekend tournament, or you might have to miss a day for school to get to a tournament. There's only so much of that you can do in a season before a school or a parent or even the kids like, hey, yo, I can't leave school again today. I'm a junior in high school. I'm trying to get to college. I can't
Yeah.
leave a fifth weekend in a row. You got to
But
think about those things.
that's why it's so ironic about the way we talk about development and structure, and we talk about, like, what are the missions and the goals for our team. And if you talk to, like, we're on the East Coast, and you're talking to a bunch of 12U or 14U kids, parents and coaches, like, oh, we want to prepare these kids for prep school and then college and then juniors, and then, yeah, but then you're doing everything there is possible to not prepare them for that.
Right.
Like I said,
School doesn't
so
matter. Let's go out to
yeah,
this
I mean,
place.
the hockey is like, are you kidding me? So it's just really got to look at that and say, okay, I, I'm depending on the region you're in, I'm reserved to the fact that you're going to probably have a couple of Thursday leave school
Sure.
days
Sure.
and go. And that's for every sport or any activity. Listen, if you're a world-class chess player, there's a tournament across the country, you're probably leaving early, right? So whatever that is that you're leaving for is what it is. It's just I think you just have to but you got to be careful
Yeah.
and conscious, And honestly, I just don't even know how people do it. I mean, you can say, well, yeah, the kid could leave school. I go, yeah, but there's 27 parents that need to leave work. Like who?
That's a good point too, Mike. I didn't even talk about the people. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how do you just leave work for
I
two
need
days?
off again Friday. What
Not
again?
everybody's working off of a cell phone and a laptop. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, there are people that have real jobs that they physically have to be there. And
Right.
then you stress those people out. Like the amount of stress we put on parents, because they're gonna find a way to get there,
Right.
right? So they're gonna find a way to make it work. So just be conscious of that. And I think you could be your parents' best friend on your team if you're just lay that out and say, listen, we have a couple of these dates because these are a couple of weekend events we really want to go to, and this is
Right.
why we want to go to them. But we're really going to cut back on the need to go to something just to go to something.
Well, and furthering on the communication aspect of this, this is just kind of a quick note for parents and coaches. You should tell your parents this, or at least suggest it. Tell the schools way in advance that my kid has this trip coming up, and we're going to have to leave. I can tell you right now, teachers get very upset when you tell them that Wednesday that they're not going to be there Thursday and Friday because it ruins their plan, right? And I'm kind of conscious to that. Now, last season, Mike, funny enough, was the first time with my son's team. We had kind of just one too many trips, and the school started to get like, "Hey, your kid's missing a lot of school." Now they were really cool about it, because I kept them in the loop most of the time, and
Mhm.
he had several sick days due to asthma, so I kind of had to just work this correctly. Um, Another tip: I always say to the teacher, always, what work if they grant him the ability to go, or my daughter, what work can we do while we're away, or what homework do we need to do while we're away? I'm pretty strict with my kids that this hockey thing is a great privilege. It doesn't mean you don't have to do the schoolwork. Now, 8 out of 10 times the teacher's like, no, it's no big deal. There's nothing to do. Okay. Maybe go read for a little bit. That's fine. Okay. My kid's a little younger. But if there's homework or work that needs to be done, it will be done. That is part of the payment the kids have to owe, if they're going to leave school.
And I think the best teachers that I've had with my kids, and even when I was growing up, the best teachers are like, oh, you're gotta, we'd have my older son, we'd have to go to like Pittsburgh for a tournament, and of course we got to cart around, the 10-year-old. He's got to come too. He can't stay home.
Right.
So now he's got to come out of school
He's got
too.
to
Not
come out
only
of
is he
school too.
missing, he's missing
Yeah.
school. But we turned it into, okay, well, here's what he's going to do. Tell a teacher he's going in. Guess what we're doing? We're going to, we're going to go see the cable car. We're going to go see
Yeah.
the Andy Warhol
Make
Museum.
it a
We're going to go
project. Yeah.
see, we're going to go see the three bridges or whatever the heck it is down there. So it's just, all this kind of really cool ways that you can spin that trip in a positive way.
Right. Right.
And if teachers will be, if you're just going skiing for the weekend, that's a lot different, I guess, right? But if you're
Yeah.
making it educational and you're saying, listen, this is something that's important to our family, but coaches can help parents strategize around that
Right.
by not making it every weekend.
Right.
you know,
Right.
just just pick and choose. Remember that maybe you have a miserable life as a coach and you hate your family, so you don't want to see them on Thanksgiving. But that doesn't mean the other families don't want to see their families on Thanksgiving.
Right.
And we have a lot of power as coaches to, to because that does affect your team. If you start getting a lot of like, say you decide I'm doing a Thanksgiving tournament and you get your doors blown off, and that's the piece that now puts a couple of these people over the edge because now they missed. Now the wife and the husband are fighting because I told you we shouldn't have went to this. And what a waste of time. We missed my mother's, last Thanksgiving that she was going to like it all turns into this
Yeah.
vicious cycle. And I
Toxic.
hear it. I'm in the hallway listening to, 20 different families talk about, how hard it is, but yet we all do it
Right.
because
Right.
nobody's going to stand up and say, I'm not going to be the family that doesn't go.
Well, I'll tell you this quick story. Not my team last year, but a parent was telling me about this, a listener of our show, that and this is a mistake I think the coach made. The coach was hell bent on going to his very specific tournament, I believe around the holidays. And he sold it to this team of this is the one we have to do. And the parents kind of together said, yeah, we don't want to travel there. It was far away, it was expensive. And they kind of combined and said, well, we don't want to go there. And this coach apparently took this really personally, which you can never do, right?
Right.
And it really disrupted the team. And there was some statements of, "Well, I guess I'm getting outvoted. I guess I'm getting." And it's like, yo, man, look, all of us you're dealing with 20 families maybe, or 15, 20
You can't even
families.
coordinate a weekend with your own family, let
Yeah.
alone everybody else's families. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
but
Don't
but
don't
I
go into
think,
it like that.
but in reference to this episode and preparing for the season, think about how you're laying out those weekends. Don't like I mean, listen, I was at it last year. I think I was in Boston just 4 weekends in a row.
Wow.
4 weekends in a row.
That's
And
brutal.
because of the way that the other teams schedule, like, because of the league we are in, and I'm like, this is insanity. Like,
Yeah. Why would you
you're
want to make that
asking
drive?
people, yeah. I mean, I said, let's just stay up here and homeschool. You know what I mean? But it's like, but for that, for thinking about laying that out, you really got to be conscious that you have all these families. It's youth hockey. Again, go out and find the most competitive schedule you can, but also remember that you might be crazy about hockey. And what's the term you use all the time about?
I say it's the hockey world is crazy. You're not crazy, but there is some people where it's reversed. You're crazy, and the rest of the people aren't. That
Hey,
is the
don't
truth.
drag us into it. Don't drag us all into it. If
Right.
you're a coach that's crazy, don't drag everyone else into your craziness.
No.
But communicate, look at the schedule, lay it all out there, and then find a happy medium to make sure that people feel they're getting the experience of a travel hockey player, um, without sacrificing so much family and school life.
And just one quick note, we did a great episode, several, on how to pick a great tournament. You guys should look for that on the
Yeah.
OurKidsPlayHockey.com network here. But one quick tip again, if you're U12, do the fun tournament. Do the fun tournament. The fun doesn't have to be 20 hours drive, right? Do the fun stuff. And if you're over 12, if you're U12, do not lie to your kids and parents about the people coming to watch your kid at a tournament, especially if it has something called showcase in the tournament. First off, tournament should be fun for you too, but coaches, be realistic with your kids. Okay. If you're coaching a tier two Bantam B team, do the fun tournament. Okay. Let the kids have a good time. Um, all right, I think we covered scheduling, outlying. I think that within that though, Mike, we do have to talk about just tactical planning for the season and practices and having a plan of how to go into a season. This is a very age specific topic. You should not go in blind. I will say this, if you are a beginner, you are a beginner coach, USA Hockey has really done a great job on their coaching app to give you practice plans, to give you guidance on how to create a small space learning quadrants on the ice. I mean, they'll give you a practice plan for the year, which is great. Definitely utilize that. Again, the first year I was coaching, we had a great coach that would actually print out drills, really print them out. He would hand them to you at the beginning of practice. This is how easy it is, and say, you're going to be in the right corner. This is the drill I want you to run. Take a look at it. Let me know if you have any questions. I mean,
Right.
it was so well organized, and the kids had a blast. With that said, I also know there's a lot of coaches out there that come in with a lot of hockey knowledge, and you want to share your knowledge. Okay. And you want to share it. But again, you can't run before you walk. So, Mike, I'm going to turn this to you. Let's start this one kind of U12 down first, and then we'll go U12 up. You're walking in for the season. How do you start planning practices?
Well, again, you just do your review, right? Who are my kids? How many kids do I have? What's the skill level that I have? And then what kind of staff do I have? Now you could and then you just start following the basic rules out there that all our governing bodies are helping us use, and then you tweak it, right? So
Right.
you need a blueprint. You need somewhere to start. So I think you're absolutely right. Like I use like our good friend Mike Weaver that has the with the Coach Them site.
Yeah.
He's
Great
got the
site.
same thing. All those drills are all pre-done. Like you could say, I want 8U lesson plan for 20 weeks. Done.
Done.
Now, and then you could tweak that and change it and move it around. But that gives you your starting point, and then it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, can my kids handle this? Is it age appropriate? Are they really prepared here? And I think you know, more than anything, just fall on the side of fun, 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 fun,
You have to. It's got to
and
be fun.
and
I don't care what age it is.
the skill development would
Yeah.
come in there. I mean, I used to think fun was kids, accomplishing the drills that I set out for them because my
Oh,
drills
that's
are
fun
so
for
good.
you.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fun for me. I said, you accomplishing my drills is fun,
Yeah.
but it wasn't, but it was with a lot of pain, right? So I think in this case, just figure out who your team is. Don't try making a triple A team out of a B team. They are who they are, and just coach to the kids you get. And you can coach them up, but you got to start with the kids you get, and just just be like, listen, this is who I got. I mean, I can't say, oh, well, I'm not used to coaching this level. Well, this is
Yeah.
the this, you knew you're coming in. This is the team you're coaching.
Yeah.
Accommodate that by developing a plan and a strategy to reach those kids.
Well, and let's talk about the art of coaching youth hockey. You have to mold the kids you have, right? The worst mistake a coach can make in youth hockey is just riding their thoroughbreds throughout the season and not developing the other two or three lines. And I've seen it. I've seen it. And look, you might have a team where your top line does 80% of the production, but a great coach will still make that is those other two or three lines participate, have a role playing the game. All right. Obviously, there's different ways to participate outside scoring production. I've seen this too, Mike. I've seen this too. I've seen guys come in. Let's just use U12. Good age group, right? You have some skill. We're gonna have the best power play in the league. All right. I know power play strat. We're gonna have the best power play. The problem is half your kids can't pass. All right. And if they can't pass, you ain't gonna have a good power play. So a big part of this, and this is a challenge for some coaches, you really gotta evaluate where these kids are at. You got to meet them where they're at, and you got to develop. So let's just say you want to have great special teams. I'm just using that as an example. Great breakout, whatever scenario you want to put in your head. Part of being a great coach is breaking down the skills needed to have a great power play, to have a great breakout. Look, passing is pretty important for all of them. Skating is pretty important for all of them. You got to look at the kid and say, okay, man, and you can do it as a gauge, 1 through 5, where are we at? I need to be at a 4 to be able to do this. Coach that. Here's a scenario. Last season, I've talked about this. I had half the kids on a school team couldn't even skate at the start of the season. Half the kids were elite. So we had to format our practices to split them up to get them to a point where they could be cohesive. By the end of the season, everyone was working together. It was great. But you got to read what's in front of you and coach to that, right? Also, Mike, one more thing for me. I'm going to throw it to you. Really common coaching mistake. Again, when we talk about the checklist, is okay, well, this practice, we're going to work on passing and we'll get it. And then we can move on. We can move on to the next thing. First off, fundamentals should be a season long aspect. Give yourself 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, and in some cases, practices to work on a skill. Like we have this like adult mentality of like, well, I did it one time, they should have it. No, 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 no. And the younger you go, the longer they need, right? Like when you look at like a might level, it's like, man, if we can get him skating by the end of the season, well, that's an accomplishment. It is a 30 practice progress, right? At the U18 level, little different. When you have some muscle memory built up, you can build it, but you should never look at a practice like we'll do it one time and they got it. That's it. We got it. You got to gauge that with your team.
Yeah, no, that repetition is huge, and I think at the even at the highest levels, you just there's a lot of repetition.
Fundamentals.
Now they have a lot more opportunity to do that because they're probably skating 5, 6 days a week. So we
Right.
don't like at the youth hockey level, we're skating 2, maybe 3 days a week. Maybe we have a
Practice
shared ice
wise. Yeah.
practice. Yeah, and then you get your games, but you're not. But I think it's just a matter of if that's the time you have, then you gotta the best way to utilize it is to keep them moving, keep them skating, keep them touching pucks. The strategy piece. Listen, if you have ice 5 days a week, and you can get parents to come in and kids, and you want to work on your power play, go nuts.
Mike, that's
But we
called a
don't,
professional team. Yeah.
right? And they can work on those special teams. Like, no, but special teams, to your point, don't work unless you have the skills that go into those special teams. So if you know the fundamental skills to be able to produce in special teams, like I see coaches all the time working on, because they all love watching Alex Ovechkin on the power play. Like, oh, that's the power play we're gonna run. I go, well, there's basically one Alex Ovechkin in
Yeah.
the
You
whole
got an
world.
Ovechkin on the team?
And then you can't just
Yeah.
force that player to be in that position. So I think just from perspective of getting ready for the season, if you're a coach, again, just develop a practice plan that revolves around your kids loving
Right.
coming on the ice and hating leaving the ice. And if you
That's
could
a
do
great
that,
way of
then
looking
you
at it.
accomplish your goal.
Yeah, that's a win, no matter how you look at it. And look, I've gotten off the ice disappointed before. I've also gotten off the ice elated, and I strive for that every time. But I'm also kind of patient with, hey, we had a bad practice today. All right, maybe I need to look at what I did. Speaking of that, bad practices. Uh, my suggestion, Mike, you can tell me if you agree with this. is to have a 15 or 20-minute call with your coaching staff every week or a meeting just to go over what you're looking to accomplish this week. I was working with the team last year. A lot of times we'd show up, there was no plan, Mike. No plan. And it's very frustrating to me. And then I looked at the situation. The head coach, very, very busy person, right? So I made that suggestion of like, let's just hop on a call for 20 minutes. It made a world of difference at practice, and then obviously that translated to games. But it is my suggestion as part of the planning. Set up a time each week. It could be after a practice. There's plenty of opportunities where you're together and just talk about, hey, what were the wins this week? What were the losses this week? Coach A, Coach B, Coach C, what do you want to work on? Just have that internal discussion, create the drills, and you're set. Mike, I think you'll agree with me on this. You should never walk into the arena ever without a plan. Ever. It's a recipe for disaster. You are going to have a bad practice if you try that. Oh, we'll just do this, we'll just do that. You're setting your team up for failure. Always have a plan.
It's going to look like you're like when you see coaches that for the first 15 minutes are doing 2-on-0, full ice flow drills.
Yeah.
They probably didn't have a plan. They probably like, oh my
The
God,
plan ain't right there.
What are we gonna do there? So I mean, one of my strategies has been, in our, most of our youth hockey world revolves around there being a Saturday or a Sunday game. And I think one of the easiest ways to do this, depending on, how fast kids have to get out of the rink and where you have to go, game ends. That's a really good time to decompress, come up with like 3 points that as a coach with your coaching staff. Okay, we got practice Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday next week, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We got to work on this. Lee, I need you to take Monday's practice, because I really need to talk to some of the kids about their weekend. But I need you to take the first half hour of Monday's practice.
I want to tap on that and pull a thread on that. There's nothing wrong with that, head coaches, for you to take a step aside, let somebody else run the drills so that you can do something else. I think a lot of coaches feel like they have to hold on to that power or responsibility, whatever word you want to use here. I don't think it's a negative thing. Mike, there's nothing wrong with a head coach saying to an assistant, hey, can you run these 3 drills? I need to talk to these kids, or I need to talk to this family. Nothing wrong with that.
I absolutely love when I have good coaches with me that I can have implement a plan,
Right.
and I can pull a kid aside for 3 minutes and talk to them during a drill.
Right.
Like, I love it. I mean, at every age. And sometimes it's not even about hockey. It's just about the kid.
Right.
And I don't get that opportunity because there's so much going on. And it's hard to do that in front of a group. Like, I don't like, hey, Lee, how was the school dance? I heard you got stood up there in the middle of the dance. But but you can't do that in a group of 5, 15
what
kids.
90s movie have you been watching when that
Well, whatever. I really, but I think it's fun depending on your relationship with the kids. It's a very easy time to talk to them, and it's very difficult when you're the king coach out there and you're just barking orders, and you got your 2 or 3 assistants just standing there like, all right, what are we doing next? Like, and then they're not doing anything either.
Well, and they want something to do.
That too.
We
can reverse that too and say, listen, I'm taking the first half hour of practice. I'm going hard at these kids. I need you to go talk to these 5 kids. Hey, Johnny, I need you to talk to the D, and integrate yourself into this.
Right.
And that's the head coach's job, is to manage that piece of it. But when you wing it, the kids know it, the parents know it. If you have really good, passionate assistant coaches, they know it. Like, I used to have a rule that if you didn't have a lesson plan, I would not go on your ice. I just wouldn't do it because you're disrespecting my time. You don't have a plan. You're really disrespecting all of my time out here. Yeah, and my experience. But more importantly, I'm like, well, what the hell am I doing here?
Right.
Like, why am I even here?
I think a lot of coaches feel that way. And I can tell you this right now. I always, when I instruct coaches, when I'm teaching coaches, I kind of use the line, don't just be a puck pusher. Right? Like, you're not just out here to push the pucks around. That's a role, obviously. Like, I think the puck should always be where they need to be, but don't just be a puck pusher. And look, I've seen situations where a head coach might be so domineering that the other 2 or 3 coaches they're just kind of out there, Mike. They're not really doing anything. And I have yet to run into an assistant coach that just wanted to stand there and do nothing.
Imagine doing all the stuff we just talked about at the beginning. Safe sport.
Yeah.
Background check. Module.
Meetings.
7 hours of coaching education programming. All of that. And this coach that you're with just says, oh, just follow my lead.
Yeah, put the pucks over there.
Go shoot on the
Yeah.
goalies.
Go shoot on
I'm
the
not
goal.
coming.
Go on the goalies up. Yeah, they appreciate that.
So it's just,
Uh,
so that's all part of the whole this grand scheme of, preparing for the season and communicating and being prepared and finding the right coaching staff. But really, think about who those kids are, plan your season around that, and put together a plan that's going to incorporate everyone on your team into a great place. If you need, listen, if you need videotape of the kids, make sure that's incorporated into the parents. Don't wait. You can't just go, hey, today's practice. Can you videotape? No, just come up with a plan. One thing we didn't talk about yet was now we have to have, you got to make sure you have a locker room monitor. So
yeah,
that's something that has to be managed. And
right.
then how are you going to manage that? Are you going to, is that locker room monitor going to go, hey, this is my way to stay in the locker room now when you're talking to the kids? Well, you got to have a transitionary period for that so that you're not having a fight before a game or a practice, like when people should and shouldn't be in the room, depending on who you are as a coach and the age group you're with. So
Right.
just those are kind of things that all you can be proactively going and fixing and preparing for.
Yeah, make sure to go back and listen to our episode about the updated rules. We do that every year. So whatever year you're listening to this, there's a new one out for the current season that you're in.
Right.
You make a good point, Mike, just quickly about parents as part of the planning. All those roles you need to fill, your manager can help you with that. Jump on them early. Ask the parents early. We need someone to do the clock. We need someone to do the score sheet. We need someone to do the music. Get on that early. You will almost always have people that want to do it. Okay. But when
People
you do it the
inherently
day
want
of
to
the
help.
game, yeah,
They want to help, but they don't want to be sprung on. Like,
right.
you have a mom or a dad's like, hey, can you do the music for the game? Like, I can't do that. My son will kill me. Like, he
Hmm.
doesn't want to listen to my music.
There's always
So
one.
just yeah, be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Utilize the people around you, head coaches. You have to. Mike, the last thing I have on my list, this is going to get some eye rolls, but it's true, is swag. Team jackets, team hats, team pants, team shorts, team shells, team jerseys, team socks, team toiletry bags, team backpacks. I'm going through all this, team bag tags, team pillowcases, whatever it is. I could go for a while. It's how do I say this? A level of it is necessary and important because I think it is important to wear your team's logo with pride. There's also a level of it that's ridiculous, especially if you're the type of family that's moving team to team. I've seen that happen a few times, right? But you want to get on this early. This one's very dependent on where you live. If you're in Minnesota, this is probably taken care of real early because it gets very cold. Sometimes in other places, not so much. But coaches, you do play a role in this in terms of just understanding the swag. The best thing you can do is be understanding of budgets and just put together a package that makes sense. Again, I am all about branding. I am all about making your kids feel like they're part of a team. Here's the deal. This can be done very, very affordably sometimes just by things like how you send an email. If you print a piece of paper out, is the team logo on it? If you have a playbook, is the team logo on it? Little things like that matter, I think, within a team environment. But Mike, you're the king of this stuff. You know a lot more about swag than me. What is the coach's role, especially if you're a newer coach in swag? Do you do the 17 knit hats a year or do you not?
Yeah. So I'm anti swag to go over the top. Like when it's mandated and when it's like, you have all 15 8-year-olds marching in with a shirt and tie on and a suit on.
We can do that at 8. I'm going to do that this year.
But I understand the side of it. I do. I get it. I understand people want to feel that way. Listen, when I first started coaching high school hockey after college hockey, I would show up in my cashmere jacket and nice pants, and I looked like a college coach coaching a high school team in a freezing rink with nobody, me running the door and rubbing up against the greasy latches and ruining every jacket that I had. And I just started saying, screw this. I'm gonna wear look like Bill Belichick out here. I'm just wearing the team logo sweatshirt and nice pair of khaki pants, and that was good. But when I think about swag in this scenario for coaches, I think about like making sure your coaching staff is unified. Make sure your coaching staff looks like your
I
staff.
like that.
Make sure they look
Yeah.
like your organization. I don't want somebody out there with the other organization's jacket on still because we didn't think ahead and say we got to get this guy a jacket. Like that's the organization he was with 3 years ago. and that's our heated rival. Like, I think it goes a long way in setting the tone from a coaching perspective. Guys showing up in cargo pants with you know, their tube socks and skates on at practice. I'm like, ugh, like that just kills me.
To
Like that
send the
kind of
right
stuff
message. Yeah.
is just not. It just you don't look like a serious person. And again, maybe we don't need to be that serious, but I think it goes a long way. And being protected, being warm, looking like a team, looking like a coach, garnering respect, that does help. There's no doubt about it. And I think more importantly, it just unifies your group. And if you start to implement this stuff with the kids, and you know, you want to get team bags and things like that, I get
Got the
yeah,
bags.
you're right. Think about budgets, thinking about, my God, I'm going to ask these people to spend another. That's listen. It's one of the reasons why I think, when I work with organizations, I promote the long-term organizational view. Like, when you come in here, our job, like, you're gonna get a hockey bag. Like, if you sign up for my AU program, you're getting a hockey bag. It might be big, might be too big, but you're getting a hockey bag.
Right.
And that hockey bag should last you your career in our organization. You don't need to go out and buy another hockey bag.
Right.
So, again, if you're a parent that goes from organization to organization to organization, that's your problem, not mine. But but if you're in the organization, you can implement strategies where you could help alleviate a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Like, 8-year-olds don't need sweatsuits that they're going to grow out of in 4 months, but you could get them a hats they never grow out of.
Right.
Team bag you don't ever grow out of. Every parent in the building could get a team uh, a koozie or something with your brand on it that lasts forever.
Right.
And I've found, like, in the organizations I've been with for long periods of time, all of a sudden now at the end of your career, you got everything, but you didn't get crushed every year buying the same thing over and over and over again just
Right.
because somebody wanted to, switch the letterhead or the font on a shirt. So think about all those little things you can do, better ROI, the swag. It's for me, if I'm a head coach, and in this episode we're talking about how do head coaches, prepare for the season, I would make sure that it was somehow in my negotiations that I have a swag bag for every coach that comes with me.
Yeah.
That coach comes on board, they get a bag,
It's a great
team
point.
logo, matching helmet, matching gloves, sweatsuit, sweatshirt, and there's something to wear around, like a golf shirt to wear around when you're at the tournaments.
I
And
love it, Mike.
that's not a lot. You're not asking a lot to do that.
Not for their
It
time.
goes
Yeah.
it goes a long way, and you'll be amazed at how much people will appreciate that for something that you didn't ask them to go out and buy.
I love the idea of using, branded, I'll just say merchandise to build value within your staff or within your team and organization. Mike, again, like I want kids with any organization or team I'm working with to be so proud that they're part of that team and that they want to wear whatever we're handing them, or they want that bag. That bag is like a trophy to them because they made the team. It's a big deal. And then just rounding this thought out, Mike, with what you said, um, to me, the logo is an opportunity to have a unification moment, right? I think it is a big deal when your kids walk in having something that represents their team. Now, again, it doesn't need to be a full tracksuit, hat, suit, tie, all this stuff. It could be a T-shirt, it could be a hat, but something that I encourage this commit as a team that when you walk in the arena, you have your team hat on, you have your team
Yeah.
hoodie on, what T-shirt, whatever it is. That's a commitment to each other, and that's part of coaching, right? At the end of the day, just rounding this episode out, between the planning, the scheduling, certifications, the staffing, the goal in youth hockey is to create good people. It is to help these kids become the best versions of themselves. That is the goal. The goal, number one, is not make the NHL. The number one goal is to help these kids become better versions of themselves. And the ROI on youth hockey is to develop life skills that they can take beyond hockey, whether they play 1 year or 20 years or 40 years with the men's league and the adult league. The goal is to become a better person. If you're doing that, if you're approaching each season like that, you're doing just fine. Okay. As a head coach. And I can tell you this right now, Mike, you can too. We've both coached professionally. A lot of that is the same in professional coaching as well. Obviously, wins and losses matter a little bit more when you're a professional coach, But really the crux of coaching is helping these players become the best versions of themselves, because that's what ultimately helps the team, right? So just know that.
Getting them to be teammates, getting them to
Right,
be fighting for the same, goals and expectations of the team.
right,
And you can do that through marketing. You can do that through slogans. You can do that through, building that team chemistry from your coaching staff down.
right.
I'm just saying, do it in a sane manner and do it in a way that's conscious of all the different uh economic pieces of your staff or of
Right.
your families. I mean, you can go crazy, but just think about, depending on where you are and how long you've been there, build some incentives in to have that gear, but just be smart about it.
And we will do a whole episode aside from this one on how to do team building within your team. Okay. Something I encourage every team to do is
Yeah.
to implement team building functions into the team. And I am not just talking about the pizza party. All right. The teams I work with do off ice once a week, typically, where they're together off the ice having to accomplish some sort of goal that has really nothing to do with hockey. Those events, I have found, Mike, to your point, not only bond the team, but it totally transfers to the ice. You can see them working together. You can see them caring about each other. You can see the egos drop to a point where some of that, head on stuff goes away and it's more cohesive. So we'll do another episode on that. I know we get a lot of interest on that, of how to do team building throughout a season for your hockey team. But in terms of planning, Mike, I think we covered it. I think that's it. Like the head coaches, you're coming into the season, first time, 50th time. These are some great tips and tactics in order to be prepared for the season. Again, no matter when you're listening to this, you can implement them. Hopefully it's not January 2nd and you're like, we should probably get organized here. It happens. It happens. But Mike, any final thoughts before I close this out?
No, I think just, the more organized you are and the more you plan this out and the more you prepare, the more positive energy you're going to bring into that first session. And that
Yeah.
should ride you for a little while. I mean,
Yeah.
come in there. If you're disheveled, that nobody has matching jerseys, you don't have a plan out in place. You haven't fully, coordinated with the staff yet. There's 7 kids missing because you didn't know there was opening, parent teacher conference night, the first night of practice. All that kind of stuff starts to chip away at where you're going to end up. So this is the time to lay all that out, lay your calendar out, look at it in front of you and say, can I accomplish these goals by following this set of values and programming that I need, or can't I? And if you can't, then again, we don't have traveling secretaries at youth hockey. Figure it out, work it out, make it work, and just set yourself up for a good start to the season. That's going to help you have a good ending in a season.
Love. And if you think we missed anything or you have comments on anything that we spoke about today, make sure to email us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com or comment wherever you're seeing the posts for these videos. Our Facebook group, Our Kids Play Hockey, is growing every single day. It's pretty amazing to see, but the conversations continue there. But that's going to do it for our conversation on the tips and tactics you need to prepare for the season. For Mike Bonelli, I'm Elias. We will see you on the next edition of Our Kids Play Hockey right here, wherever you're listening. Thanks so much for the support. Wishing you the best wherever you're at in your season. And we'll see you on the next episode. Skate on, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.